All right, let's start with your name and the character you'll be playing.
My name is Rachel Wesley. I am the director, the music director, the track coordinator and composer. I'm Mrs. Lovett as well. That's right.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about Mrs. Lovett.
Okay. Mrs. Lovett sort of gets this bad reputation, I sort of feel like. She doesn't get a lot of sympathy from a lot of people whenever they come see the show, or anybody that has played her or anything like that, in terms of not getting the same sort of allowances that I think people sort of connect to Todd on. But from where I sit, Mrs. Lovett is definitely a survivor. She has waited in the wings for 15 years for the man that she has loved her whole life to return. Now, how she goes about getting him, that might be a little bit morally questionable, and that's fair. But she, in a time where living wasn't even possible, she has definitely found a way to survive, and I think that that's very admirable and something that I connect to as well as an actor.
Absolutely. Well, I know this has been a ball of stress for you, but clearly there's a reason that you're doing it. So what have you enjoyed about doing Sweeney Todd so far?
The very first time I saw a Sondheim show, I was 16 years old. I saw Into the Woods, and from that point on, I fell in love with Sondheim's music. I have loved multiple musicals all of my life, but it almost feels like his composition is in my very blood, if I may be perfectly frank, because the way that he composes is the perfect representation of how we as human beings think and feel, and he has found a way to put words to that. And that expression, music speaks where words fail. I think Sondheim's words do a pretty good job of trying to find those emotions indeed.
I would agree. Okay, so I know you're wearing multiple hats in this production, so maybe you'll have multiple answers to this question, but what is or are the challenges of presenting a show like Sweeney Todd?
Well, first of all, it's a rated R musical in Birmingham, Alabama, and while a lot of professional theaters might not find that much of a challenge, in terms of the community theater level, that's a hard sell. However, when I went to basically every single person in this cast and I said, I would like to do Sweeney Todd and I would like you to be a part of it, their eyes lit up. And that reaction pretty much consecutively sort of gave me the idea that maybe there was something in this production in particular that the actors whom I have cast were looking for. And I know for me personally, it was definitely something that I was yearning to do as well. I've never had the opportunity to be in the show. But as soon as that threshold was sort of crossed, it was just more or less no turning back whatsoever.
And for the community, how do you think Sweeney Todd will benefit the community?
I mean, it is a show about life if ever there was one, in my opinion. Again, these people aren't always living, they're just trying to survive. And I think in this modern time where we are living in a world where children are being ripped away from their families, where people are being murdered for who they are, those are themes and stories that people can resonate with. People who on a more simpler level have gone through trauma, who have gone through grief, who have gone through all of these things that are basically in the dark, that most musicals don't want to explore because they're escapisms. Sondheim actually dares to bring these things into the forefront. And for me, with as little time as we have to do anything that we want to do in this life, I want anything that I work on to have a meaning and have a purpose and to make a lasting impression and tell the truth. And I feel like even though this is set in 1870s London, there's a lot of truth in Sweeney Todd that I think is good to hear.
We've benefited greatly from your experience, so would you like to shed some light on some of your more unorthodox roles?
That's a very specific question. I've done a lot of more avant-garde theater work, you're right. Especially in college, if you don't get cast in certain shows, then you sort of have to make your own opportunities. But past past that, one of my more favorite roles that I did recently, when I did Macbeth in Houston, I played Witch Number 2. And basically the director's only note was, you can't be too loud, you can't roll around on the ground too much, and you also can't not mess with the Macbeths enough. Much like I'm sort of trying to do with the ensemble, she inserted us into a lot of scenes to sort of give that feeling of foreboding. Funnily enough, her name was Stacy. And she really influenced me a lot in pushing me to find those more unorthodox ways of storytelling that I hope to try and move into Sweeney Todd itself, for sure.
I think that's advice that not only applies to theater, but to real life.
Well, thank you.
So, to finish up everything, can you give us one random fact about yourself?
So, when I was in college, speaking of these opportunities that you have to make for yourself, I had not gotten cast in anything the entire year. So what I decided to do is, I had some friends who were deeply invested into the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And Buffy the Vampire Slayer has a musical episode. So we decided that for funsies, much like we are doing a little bit with Sweeney Todd, we were going to learn that entire musical and present it as a staged open mic night, which we actually ended up doing. And there were people in that show that were theater majors, there were people that were fans. We just sort of brought a collective of people together in very unorthodox ways. Some people who had never been on stage before were playing primary characters, but just loved the show and were like, I could do that. As a result, we actually got 3 more people interested in becoming theater majors, 5 more became theater minors, and more than that, a crap ton of people got invested in the show. And I think that that's pretty cool. Likewise, the guy who actually played my lead in that I was directing, when he contributed to our GoFundMe, which you can actually learn about on our Facebook page, he said, the reason I am giving this is because what I remember about you is when you decide that you're going to do something, it ends up getting done. And that's not just words. I was literally a part of that. And you deserve to take the next step. And whether I deserve it or not is irrelevant. But I do think that that energy needs to push itself forward. And if there are people that believe in me, that believe in this cast, the way that I believe in them, the way that I've seen the potential in them, the way that I care about who they are, not only as people, but as artists, then nothing but good can come about as a result of a story about a man who, in revenge, cuts people up and puts them into meat pies. Sometimes you have to go through a more avant-garde venue to really solidify yourself. Absolutely. And I'm not afraid to do that. Neither is Lovett, for that matter.
Art serving art, that's how it should be. Well, thank you, Rachel, and thank you, viewers. We hope that you will join us October 27th at Birmingham Improv Theater to see us do this crazy thing called Sweeney Todd.